War on coal is exactly what's needed. A war on coal is exactly what's needed. That's one of the president's advisors. It's an astonishing bit of honesty from someone that close to the White House.
We know pretty much what he will say. He will say, as you indicated, that for the first time there will be some controls on emissions from existing coal-fired power stations. Now, in the past, he'd said he wanted to regulate new coal-fired power stations, but to go into existing coal-fired power stations is much more radical, and he will get a lot of opposition from Congress for that. But what he's done, he's chosen a route which will bypass Congress by imposing rules from the administration, and he's hoping to get the rules through that way, although there will be legal challenges, and he will need to have the stomach for a fight if he's going to push this through over the next couple of years.
We are very grateful for their support, and I want to say thank you to the Hoyas in the House for having me back. You know, it was important for me to speak directly to your generation, because the decisions that we make now and in the years ahead will have a profound impact on the world that all of you inherit. You know, on Christmas Eve 1968, the astronauts of Apollo 8 did a live broadcast from lunar orbit. Frank Borman, Jim Lovell, William Anders, the first humans to orbit the moon, described what they saw, and they read scripture from the book of Genesis to the rest of us back here. And later that night, they took a photo that would change the way we see and think about our world. It was an image of Earth. Beautiful, breathtaking. A glowing marble of blue oceans and green forests and brown mountains, brushed with white clouds rising over the surface of the moon. And while the sight of our planet from space might seem routine today, and around the same time we began exploring space, scientists were studying changes taking place in the Earth's atmosphere. Now, scientists had known since the 1800s that greenhouse gases like carbon dioxide trap heat, and that burning fossil fuels release those gases into the air. That wasn't news. But in the late 1950s, the National Weather Service began measuring the levels of carbon dioxide in our atmosphere, with the worry that rising levels might someday disrupt the fragile balance that makes our planet so hospitable. And what they found, year after year, is that the levels of carbon pollution in our atmosphere have increased dramatically. That science, accumulated and reviewed over decades, tells us that our planet is changing in ways that will have profound impacts on all of humankind. I still want to see that happen. I'm willing to work with anyone to make that happen. But this is a challenge that does not pause for partisan gridlock. It demands our attention now. And this is my plan to meet it. A plan to cut carbon pollution, a plan to protect our country from the impacts of climate change, and a plan to lead the world in a coordinated assault on a changing climate. And we'll also open our climate data and NASA climate imagery to the public to make sure that cities and states assess risk under different climate scenarios so that we don't waste money building structures that don't withstand the next storm. So that's what my administration will do to support the work already underway across America. Not only to cut carbon pollution, but also to protect ourselves from climate change. But as I think everybody here understands, no nation can solve this challenge alone, not even one as powerful as ours. And that's why the final part of our plan calls on America to lead. Lead international efforts to combat a changing climate. And make no mistake, the world still looks to America to lead.
We have polls in America saying 4 in 10 people in the US don't even think that global warming is an issue. So that's one thing he has to tackle. But how important is it that America is seen as leading the way here?
Well, America, I don't think it could be said to be leading the way.
Nobody has a monopoly on what is a very hard problem. But I don't have much patience for anyone who denies that this challenge is real. We don't have time for a meeting of the Flat Earth Society. Sticking your head in the sand might make you feel safer, but it's not going to protect you from the coming storm. And ultimately, we will be judged as a people and as a society and as a country on where we go from here. Our founders believed that those of us in positions of power are elected not just to serve as custodians of the present, but as caretakers of the future. And they charged us to make decisions with an eye on a longer horizon than the arc of our own political careers. That's what the American people expect. That's what they deserve. And someday our children and our children's children will look at us in the eye and they'll ask us, did we do all that we could when we had the chance to deal with this problem and leave them a cleaner, safer, more stable world? And I want to be able to say, yes, we did. Don't you want that? Americans are not a people who look backwards. We're a people who look forward.